All right, for a Zoom meeting, we have to do roll call, right?
Correct.
All right, so Meredith Chamberlain here. I don't know which way everyone is on each other's screens.
Leo Brem here.
Mike
Carol-
Weber here.
Carolyn Casey here.
Lisa James here.
Peter Michelson here.
Bob Meany here.
Michelle Kirkby here.
Bill,
Robert Worth here.
Bill, you're up.
Bill Werner here.
All right, that's everybody. Before we go to approve our minutes from the last couple of meetings, I thought it would be good just because we have 2 new members. We've had a couple members that have had to leave this committee for various reasons. So I thought it would just be good to take a moment and sort of establish how we want these meetings to go. I know that as we get more into some of the meatier topics, if you will, you know, the RFP that we're looking at today, when we get to the point, if we're talking about location, what happens if we get into MSBA next time or not. I just think it's important. All members of this, committee, we're all different. We all have different perspectives. Some of us talk more, some of us are more of listeners, and I think that's what makes this group so robust and awesome to work with. I just want to make sure that as we are taking turns talking, that we are letting people finish and that we're hearing their ideas and giving space to listen as much as we're giving space to speak. So I just wanted to sort of give us all of that, those sort of parameters around that, and just a reminder to that end of things. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments? Are we good?
Well said.
Perfect. And then next we have some minutes to approve because I know we didn't have a quorum last time, so we couldn't go ahead and approve the meeting minutes. So do we want to start with the January 3rd meeting?
Sure.
Okay. Did everybody have time to look at that? Were there any thoughts?
I hate to start out sounding like a picky person. I think there's a reference in the January 3 minutes, which was the first meeting I attended, to NASDAQ, as in the stock exchange. And I think we're talking about NASDAQ, which is the compilation of student data and enrollment projections.
Good catch.
Thank you, Peter.
No, don't thank me for that.
Other comments? Everybody good? Do we have a motion to approve?
I would make a motion that we approve the January 3rd SPC meeting minutes.
I'll second.
So do we just go around?
Why don't you
Aye.
call people, Meredith, why don't you call people out based on your screen?
Okay. Bob Meany,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Teresa,
Abstain, I was not in attendance.
Mike, Weber.
Now, I was also not in attendance, but I did watch the video. So correct me if I'm wrong, Christine or Michelle, but I'm pretty sure that I can vote and approve them. So I'm good with it.
Okay. Peter,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you. Robert,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. Okay, so the third agenda item we have is the vote on the RFP for a demographic study.
Sorry to interrupt you, Meredith. Can we do the November 11th?
Oh,
one?
yeah. Yep, for sure.
So those are the ones where they fixed your name, Meredith. So with that fixing of the word of your name, I'd make a motion that we approve the November 1st, was it? November 1st meeting minutes?
In the sake of consistency, I'll second it.
Okay, in the sake of me leading us across my screen, Bob,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Teresa,
It's gonna sound bad, but that was another meeting I missed. So I must abstain.
thank you, Mike,
Yes,
Peter, you were,
I was not yet a member. I'm abstaining.
okay. Oh, Michelle, you moved on my screen. It's getting
Sorry.
tricky. Here. Michelle,
Yes.
thank you. Bill,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Leo,
Abstain. Wasn't part of the committee.
thank you. And Meredith, yes. All right, so at our last meeting, we had a discussion about getting an RFP for a demographic study. Jeff Marsden very graciously agreed to turn that around at a pretty quick speed. I just, that was sent to us on Monday. I know that was a holiday, but I'm hoping people had time to look at it and just open to discuss and get some thoughts.
I mean, generally, generally, I thought it was well done. I mean, it's a fairly broad, meaning like some of the stuff in there is not very specific. I think that's good, but the ask is fairly clear. But my question really is only how many people, and Christine and Jeff is probably for you, generally, like how many consultants, there's a fair amount of consultants that do this type of work, and I mean, can we reach out to them? Because the time frame is February 6th that we're asking for it back, which I love the fact that you're pushing for a quick turnaround. I just want to make sure that we have adequate coverage.
Yeah, Mike, I think that because it's a RFQ, which is the quotation versus an RFP, I think we're looking at sending it to specific places that do this work. So just sending it directly to them to get their quote.
Okay, great.
We've identified a couple that I know that my colleagues in surrounding towns have used other than NASDAQ. One is FutureLink and the other is Jerry McKibben Demographics, which Needham uses each year. Almost everyone else uses NASDAQ as theirs, like we do. But I know that FutureLink was used for Wellesley with their situation where they were closing a school and need to get some demographic on different elementary schools because they're closing one and then building the other two. So they need to get a lot of information from them. And the report that I got from their superintendent was they did a really good job and it was useful. And then also the Jerry McKibben one was the Needham superintendent. They use them every year and they had nothing but high praise for the work that he does for them. So those were the two that we've identified. The other demographer that we've used, the town has used, I think, is in that Trinity project. And I worked, directly with them because they were trying to decide how many kids were going to come out of the state hospital. That's another avenue we could, send it to them as well. But that was because we wanted a quick turnaround. Instead of posting it and putting it out there in the central register for a couple of weeks or whatever, we thought we would identify known entities in educational demographics and send it directly to them.
I mean, I think generally, if we have two people or companies that we know are qualified and they have really good references, which you just provided two right off the bat, I mean, that's fine with me. I mean, but I'm happy to hear others' thoughts.
I also just want to say thank you, Jeff. I know it was a quick turnaround. We didn't really give you a lot of time, so really appreciate the effort and the time. I
Thanks.
had one question and one comment. On the first page, at the bulleted list in the bottom, you have a lot of things about demographics, but the first bullet says review of existing conditions, and I wasn't sure what that meant in terms of enrollment. Are you saying review existing enrollment? When I think of conditions, I think of a physical building. That's why I wasn't quite sure what that meant.
Yes, I think looking at the existing enrollment and the conditions, like for instance, what NESDEC does for us is they look at the actual births, live births in the community and start looking at some of that data. So that's part of the existing conditions that they base their numbers off of. So I was looking at something, and again, we can change it any way you guys want. This was just what we put together.
Okay, so you meant existing conditions in terms of population.
Yes.
Okay, could we add? I'm sure the companies know, but just for other people to understand, we're not, at this point, we're not looking at the physical condition of buildings and not asking them to. It's all
Sure.
about enrollment and population.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And my one other piece was related to some of the community comments that came in, where it says brief history on the second page. And you have a sentence about the state hospital property.
Mhm.
And I know we have several new projects in town. We have, the apartments at 27 in Dale, and we have the Legion now that's all apartments. And I wonder if we should just make a statement that we just want the company to consider all relatively new developments, and obviously their job would be to look at future ones coming up, and I'm assuming they contact town hall and get all that information. I don't want them to think that's the only one, rather than trying to list them all out. What if we just made it a general statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Carolyn, if we just added something along the lines of number of housing units at the state hospital and other, ongoing and future, or planned, housing units or something like that, would that satisfy kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, just to make sure, because we've got, a number. And we have some I know are just for seniors, but we have a lot, and there might even be more than I know about. I know they're looking at rezoning the town because they have to meet that whole thing about transit communities. So I don't know what will come up, right? Christine, maybe you have more on that, but that was just,
No, I think adding a sentence like that, Jeff, is probably pretty easy and makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think it also goes with, if we didn't mention any of it, that's kind of the job, Carolyn, but I think just
yes, I agree. I thought it was a
some
job.
overall, like, hey, this is what we're looking at. I have no problem. I think I agree with you.
Yeah, or if you just want to take it out, because I agree, it's like I don't want to tell them what to look at.
Well, I think we're incumbent to, so what, maybe this goes on to the next question. My assumption, Jeff, we send this to a couple people, as many as, are qualified that we think. I assume that there is some correspondence back and forth with Christine, Mike, maybe even yourself, in regards to very specific information that they get before a proposal's put together.
Yes.
Can you maybe just walk me through just a 2 minutes on that process, is how you probably see it or envision it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes what folks will do and companies will do is just, we have the basic information there. They'll just want more clarification on it because they want to know whether or not it's something that it's viable for them to bid on. So they'll ask for, different information. This is just demographics. It's just other vendors as well. Ask for information prior to them providing a quote to us. So I think that might have, I mean, Christine, you've dealt with that too, right? Where vendors have asked you for additional information just before they provide a quote. So I think that could happen with this as well.
Okay.
And when that happens, all you do is prepare your answers in writing to the firms that have requested it, and then you just send that information out to all of the firms so that everybody's
right.
bidding on the same thing.
Yep, everyone gets the same information.
I have a quick question. In addition, and the two firms you mentioned, Jeff, sound very good and it's worth sending it to them. But are we going to post this on some website so that others will have the opportunity to bid on this if they so choose?
Well, I mean, typically we do stuff in the central registry and we put it on there. If that's something the building committee wants, we can do that. I'm not sure we would need to do that if we're sending a quotations directly to those companies, but I'm happy to put it anywhere, whatever you guys want to do.
Are we talking about OSD, Jeff? Is that what the central registry is?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll follow Christine's. I don't know anything about. I know what public bidding process is generally. Peter, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. I was just going to say, I know very little about bidding myself, but it was my sense you have to give people a shot. And there might be some company out in Amherst or Northampton that we don't know much about. But they see it and they put in a bid and they're excellent, kind of thing. That's wildly hypothetical, but it just seems to me, I'm not trying to make this undue, boy, am I not trying to make this complicated, but I thought there was some obligation to let, you don't just pick and choose a couple companies and say, here, you guys come and bid on it. You let other people know about it.
Well, it all depends on the dollar amount, Peter. So I think, with this dollar amount, we could absolutely do what we're describing. But if you'd like to post it, it's just going to extend the time frame. That's fine. I'll happily post it, but you're going to extend the time frame when we're going to get this done.
Okay, I didn't realize that. What's the time frame if you post it?
Months, right? I mean,
I forget how many weeks it is, but I'd have to look at the regs on it. I haven't done it in a while, but you'd have to put out a few more weeks. This is a quick turnaround directly to the vendors.
Well,
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I know we discussed timing and we were being aggressive with it. In fact, I think we talked about trying to get results by the end of March, right? So
Mhm.
I hear what Jeff is saying, so it sounds important to me if he knows people to reach out and kind of use that manner. If we want to do this fast turnaround, if we want to slow it down and change what we talked about last time, certainly open to that discussion, but we did talk about a fast turnaround.
I'm all in the effort of speed based on where we're at in our process. And obviously, if there's a third firm that comes up, Jeff, through
Yeah.
your network, or Christine, if we're aware of others, absolutely. Leo, you got your hand raised.
Trying to be respectful. I think I was a little less respectful in the last meeting, so I'm trying to make amends here. I'm curious, Jeff. I'm looking as I review this RFP. I think in the RFP, would we want the method of calculation and resources used? And I think to the questions presented by folks on the meeting, like in particular, Peter is talking about access to folks. I wouldn't rule out the idea of some other methodologies being used. I'm just curious of how we would determine the methodologies used based on the RFP. And I'm just looking here if you could pinpoint it for us. If we are calling that out for them to, communicate the methodologies they use, what resources they're going to use to determine this, prediction for us.
I think that's part of their proposal and quote to us is they describe what the methodology is. I would say that although I looked at one and not another, but they're pretty comprehensive reports that both school districts got from each one of these vendors. So I'm confident that they'll, put together a really good report with this in projections. So part of that process is explaining what their methodology is in the quotation, or it should be anyway.
Well, I guess that's what I was asking. I was like, are we calling out? Are we asking for the methodology used, in the process? Are they going in and peeking into the love lives of everybody, and birth rate and everything else? All that, stuff that goes into, determining what our population will be and our student population will be in 6 years. So I guess that's the question I'm having. Like, all these firms we're working with already, and we're getting, what is the difference in the data sources they're using? Are they all going to take the same data sources and just apply a different algorithm to it? Or are we going to actually get somebody who's going to take a different approach? And I guess that's what I was asking. Like, can we call out some sort of, some sort of methodology in it? But like I said, I don't want to slow the process down.
Yeah, I would say we use the cohort survival methodology that through NASDAQ, and that's what they've always used. So I'm not sure if there's be a different methodology that should come through in their proposal.
Understood.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering if we needed to put anything in about that timeline. Carolyn, you had mentioned kind of being really aggressive, and our expectation is like an end of March deliverable if there was a February 6th. But do we need, and I don't think we should put a time, an actual date, but do we need to make sure that they know we want fast action on this work?
Yeah.
So my experience in just in my own business, Teresa, is kind of once you get proposals before you award somebody, that's part of the discussion then. How quick can you do this sort of deal? But I mean, if the group wants to write something in there, that's fine. I have no problem with it, but generally, I think that would be certainly be part of the discussion of, if someone gives us a number of, hypothetically, we have three numbers, 10, 12, and $14,000. And the guy who's $10,000 says, I can do this work, I'm highly qualified, but I can't get you anything by November. And then the $12,000 person says, again, I'm highly qualified, I could do this work, but I can get it to you by end of March. I think we make a decision at that point. That's just my own, in my business, that's kind of how we run things, but I'm happy to hear other comments on it.
Well, I guess I'm thinking, Mike, I mean, because this is a smaller contract, right? And we're not going to go through a ton of interviews, I don't think. We're not pulling these in, or are we gonna then do it? This is not an interview, it's, hey, we get their quotes, we look at their services, we maybe check the references, and we make a decision. We're not, right?
I would hope we have at least a conversation, if not us, Christine and Jeff, and
Okay.
yeah, generally maybe not the whole group. I don't disagree with you, but yeah, I wouldn't blindly have this group vote on awarding a contract unless there's been discussions had. It's just my opinion. Christine or Jeff or Meredith, you guys have a thought on that?
I mean, I agree with you. Makes sense to me. I mean, I think if we really want to do this fast, we do it, but I do think we need to, once the bids come in, a conversation.
And and I guess I was just advocating that we put that expectation out there.
I'm fine with that. Maybe in the deliverables, we can maybe say, in lieu of putting a date down, because I do think it's a quick turnaround no matter what. Maybe it's along the lines of, we're hoping for a quick turnaround or something along those lines.
Right, exactly,
Like, kind of broad, guidelines of, we're looking for the information sooner than later, but obviously not in those words, 'cause wouldn't write that on an RFP. Leo, is your hand still up?
Sorry, no.
Do we think we're ready to vote on it?
Yeah, do you think the group, if we add something along the lines of just generally that we're looking for a quick turnaround on it, is you guys good with that? Thumbs up, down?
I'm good for that. Just, Jeff, in your experience, is that all right? Is that typical? Does that make any concerns for you about putting it out?
Yeah, I would just say that typically you have that conversation when the quotes come in, and don't put it on the quote, but I'm happy to do that. I mean, we can just say that, the Medfield School Building Committee has an aggressive timeline and would want this project completed by spring of 2024. Something like that. I mean,
Yeah, something generic, but just let them know we're acting.
Or even aggressive timeline and leave it at that.
yeah, okay. Whatever you'd like. Happy
That's
to.
all-
What I
that's-
don't want to do is scare people. Oh, sorry, Carolyn. Go ahead.
No, I agreed. Sorry. Just what you said. I don't want to scare people off. I also don't want people to think like the fall's okay because,
Right.
So- But if everyone's busy as hell and no one can get it until the summertime, and that's the best we can do, maybe, maybe we don't get any bids if we say it's aggressive and they're busy. So maybe to Jeff's point, we get the bids in and then we have those conversations and relay them to the group that way.
Yeah, since you're contacting some people who do a good job, maybe that is the way to do it because it's not a huge pool. I don't want them all to just say, no, I can't do it that fast. If they're good companies and this, from the other towns that use them, I would rather have a good company give me something in June or July than, not get it.
Maybe we just make sure that we have to vote on this, guys. So why don't we just have that conversation as a group once the bids come in? Leave it off. That'll be one of our main questions to them. Other questions or comments?
Mike, I would just add that although we have this office as the contact people, I would really prefer that members of the SBC are the ones that make the decision and do that communication. So that would be my preference. I'm happy to help out, but I feel like this is an SBC initiative, and you folks are the ones that should be making that decision and making that that communication to award a bid. That's just my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, the proposals are due to your office. I assume they're going to come electronically.
Yes.
So what do we, I mean, you want to just, when we get them, how would you communicate them to us? Would you send them to Meredith and I? Would you send them to the whole group?
I think I would send it to maybe form a quick subcommittee or something that would look at that. Or, I mean, my preference would be to send it to the co-chairs and then you folks decide what you want to do at that point.
Okay. No problem.
That works.
Meredith, we'll just talk offline. We could figure that out. I don't,
Okay.
I think we should all vote on it so we all see them. And then how we present that, we'll just talk about that real quick. I don't want to make the decision for the group because it's the first time we're spending some real dollars. So not that I'm afraid to, but I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement.
Yep, I agree.
I don't have any other questions or comments. I think, like I said, I think generally the scope is general but clear. Anyone else?
We ready to vote?
I am.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Carolyn, you want to keep it consistent?
I make a motion that we approve the draft of the RFP with, I think we had just 2 changes in it that we discussed.
I'll second it with those changes.
All right, here we go. Bob, you're up first.
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Meredith, yes. All right. We're moving right along in this agenda. Carolyn, thank you for the reminder for the communication subcommittee update to just have that permanently on the agenda. Appreciate that. So there it is. And we can start chatting about your update and the things that you sent us.
Okay, so we were talking at our meeting, this communication meeting, and this last SBC meeting about trying to get more presence out there socially. We did talk a little bit about social avenues, but didn't get far in that discussion. But we decided at least we want to make sure the website is updated as it can be. So there were 2 things we were working on that I sent you drafts of. One if you look at the website now, you'll see a picture of Medfield Day and then you'll see some things under it. So one of the things I sent you was just what we call an update blurb. And it basically just says a couple important things. We didn't get in the program, right? And you know that we are meeting to discuss, you know, the next steps because we didn't get in the program. So we want to put that in. And then we've been talking since Medfield Day about some common questions that came up to us at Medfield Day, but also have come up to the SBC. And we want to do just list them out and give quick answers so everyone had the same information. And then we can change those top 10 questions as we get new questions and things move on. So I was hoping that you would get a chance to look at the little blurb and the top 10 questions and give us any feedback, any changes that you want or discussion. And then if you're fine with it, or we make some changes and then you're fine with it, we would post those to try to get something new up on the website. And I just will mention, we talked before about all handouts having the banner, but I didn't seem to have a program on my computer where I could take the banner off the old documents and move it onto the top 10 questions, but I'll work with Brittany on that because she has the final that banner that we use with the scan me mark, and I will get that on it before I post it. So just thoughts about what we're trying to do.
Carolyn, I took a peek at everything and I thought it looked really great, and just want to thank the committee again for putting such time and effort into this. The only thing I would add, I guess, is on the top 10 questions, I didn't see, I guess, something that would, sorry. I didn't see something that would ask anyone, like, do you have a question, to like kind of give them an action to reach out to us if they had a question. So even just under, like, so you've got the top 10 questions and then the italicized community members kind of little blurb, you could say right there, and do you have a question or something, you know, just to like, I guess, put it back on the person. I feel like the more you invite people to ask a question and give them our SBC at, you know, email.medfield.net, like the more they see that and the more that they feel invited to ask the questions, that will help kind of open that line of communication. So that was the only thing I saw to help, I guess, get more questions.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely, you could put that right under the title. Here's the top 10. If you have a question, send it. And I guess I would have them send it to just the website, right? To the whole.
Sorry, you have the email address on here for questions, so maybe just highlight that one and move it up. The 9th point is.
Ninth point, just move it up to the front. Yeah. Yeah, we said people, you could send a question here, and then we said this is how you could find out who's on it, but maybe it should be up at the top, you know.
I would still do it twice personally.
Okay. I'll move it up under the title. And it would be there. And then we can see what we get, which would be great. Yeah, we did put it at the end, but you're right. I think if they see it right there, they might be, oh, I've had this question. Yeah.
Carolyn, and the rest of the committee, thank you guys for putting this together. I think it's well done. And I had one super minor change, and that's just in the first note. You have December 2023. I would just update that to January 24.
Oh, I thought I should put that date because. So I was trying to figure out a way to put the date for people to understand that we can apply again this year. I don't want them to think you get a no in January. I was trying to say we heard in December. Are you talking about that part of it?
I was have you chosen a location part?
Oh, okay. For the
That was no. The other one the other one was perfect. Yeah, December 23.
Okay.
That's great.
So the location part, I'll change.
Yeah, I mean it's an ongoing discussion.
Yes. Great, thank you.
Just because we're posting it in January, I don't want it to feel like it's old news.
Yes.
It's also pretty relevant.
Anything else anybody wants to put? And Jeff, I saw you gave a little update to the schools about the MSBA at your company there did it, right? You put out a little something.
Correct. Yeah. I think, you know, one thing that we learned the last time was that you can't put the same information out too many times. I mean, I had someone ask me today, what's the story with MSBA? Did we get in or not? And someone connected to the school. So I feel like as many times you can get the correct information out, as many venues you can, the better.
Yeah.
So
Do you-
I checked with Mike and Meredith on that, and they gave it the blessing before it went out.
Yes, and do you think that we should put it on the website? We could just put it as a handout too.
Sure.
Would it be all right? I mean, I don't know what the rules are with the company that you've
Yeah,
hired.
sure, absolutely.
Okay, that would be.
Yeah, once it's public, like presses, you can use anything really, Carolyn. So I think it's a great idea. I
Okay.
mean, it's just more information, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's saying it again, and they had a nice tone to it, I thought. So why not just be another thing maybe somebody will open and read? Okay. All
Again, I
right.
think this is great. This is really well done. Thank you.
And for further, I don't want to discuss it tonight, but maybe at our next meeting as part of our update, we're trying to see how timely we can be in getting things posted, and we've discussed since the beginning about whether we should check with you and then post, but we meet once a month, so it drags it out a little bit. Like this is kind of nice because it's only been 2 weeks, and actually we met last week, so it's only been a week and a half for us. So if everybody could just think about that a little bit in terms of posting, maybe we could post a little faster if we, didn't necessarily have to always check at the meetings, but Bill and I have talked about this, and I know Bill talked about it last time. We want to get a message that's very clear, that everybody's, putting forth the same message and it's clear. And I don't want to put something out, obviously, that people would not be okay with, but it would be good, I think, to keep updating as much as we can, as soon as we can.
Given the size of our group, I think it's worth thinking about. You could be in a space where if the subcommittee decides that something needs to be out there and you get the blessing of the chairs, I mean, I think you'd have to almost be in a place in that sense that like the rest of the group would be okay with it.
Okay, so because otherwise, see, if we meet now on the Mondays after our Wednesday first meeting. So
Right.
we wouldn't be able to post until a month later if we wait. But if I sent it to Mike and Meredith and they said thumbs up, would Mike and Meredith, you feel comfortable with that? And then I can
mean,
post
gen-
it.
generally, I trust you guys to post what's accurate anyways. You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. So I don't necessarily, but that said, if I read something, I don't even know what it would be. I can't even think of an example. My email's on my phone, so I'm pretty much always available, like to respond back pretty quickly. That I'm happy to if it's the group wants me to check and Meredith to check, I'm sure that'll be fine. But generally, I'm if you're just posting information that's factual, sooner the better.
Yeah, and Carolyn, I think what we talked about was really like what we posted to be that timeliness, the group meets and what was the headlines from our meeting, just the headlines. And you post the link to the recording to the meeting, right? Nothing, not a long, lengthy article, not a diatribe or anything like that, but just really quick, short kind of items. And then,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna echo your point, Teresa. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Was even if you just posted like this was the agenda and here's a link to the meeting, like with a little bit of color, fine. I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Just my thoughts, yeah. And I don't need to approve that. That's like that would be, I think, more than adequate, more than good. Teresa, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No. That's exactly. It's just, hey, we had this meeting. These were the quick outcomes, right? And these are, and you encourage to attendance at the next meeting.
Yeah, Carolyn, I don't think this is a voting issue. You have my blessing. If that's the type of messaging we're gonna put out there, I think you guys and Teresa and Bill just go for it.
All right. Thank you.
So MSBA meeting update. I think that's our next agenda item. We didn't have to vote on anything. Did we have to vote on those 10 questions? No, right? Okay, so Jeff, I know you've been in contact with MSBA and we're trying to set up that meeting. I don't know if you want to share with the group.
Yeah, we haven't made contact yet, kind of doing phone tag. So hopefully within the next week or so, we'll nail down a time, and then, get folks together for a meeting. Hopefully they're open to it. Again, we haven't really talked about that yet with them, but based on the feedback we've had in past years, I would think they'd be open for a conversation.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, and then the last item, I think we were that conversation was really going to be happening. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, after we had the meeting with MSBA. So I don't know that we can do the last agenda item about the RFP for feasibility unless people have other thoughts.
My only thought, and I apologize I wasn't at the last meeting, in regards to a feasibility study, part of our kind of charge, I think is written, and I don't have the article in front of me, was in regards to a feasibility study. I think we've got a good amount of stuff to do in the next month or so. So I'm happy to push this topic. But I think we should probably dig into it a little bit more, because even if we were accepted into MSBA come last December, the feasibility study is still on the town. Like they're not gonna reimburse us for that again. I believe that's the case. So us doing that ahead of time in starting that process, I don't know if I see much harm in it. And I'm happy to talk to them first, don't get me wrong. Christine, am I correct in that? They're not gonna reimburse us, and it's, something we'd have to do anyways. Is that fair? You're muted, sorry.
I would defer to Jeff on MSBA questions.
Yeah, they will not reimburse. They do it once and only once. So they reimbursed, I believe, 365,000 or something to that effect to the town last time. So they won't do that. I mean, I think one of the things we have to look at too is there's a lot of great information on the last feasibility study that we can still use. I think determining that is going to be a really important issue, because if the town's going to be paying for the next feasibility study, it doesn't have to be the whole thing that was done last time. From what MSBA said to me in the past, that you have a lot of good stuff here, you can use it. I think that's part of that conversation that we have with them is what do you think is the best part that we can glean from this, keep it, and what are some areas that we have to expand on and look further that we didn't look at a few years ago. So.
All right, so let's have that meeting and ask those. I mean, I'm happy to ask those questions directly too. That'd be great. But I guess that point's well taken too. If we have all the information already, I mean, I can certainly start printing it out and or reading it online and figuring out exactly what I think is good and what needs to be updated. Because obviously some of it needs to be updated, but okay. Anything else on that topic?
Mike, I just think like things like the visioning sessions, those probably have to be updated, to get a new group of people in, or same group of people, but 3 or 4 years later, I think those probably have to be done again. But I think some of the feasibility itself of the building, of the existing building, we should be able to use that. It hasn't gotten any better. So I think, we need to use that, and it's already been done. So it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and our locations are our locations, and, the town owns a certain amount of land, that hasn't changed much. So that type of stuff I think is important.
Hey, Mike, it's Bill. My only push on this last time was to just make sure we understand where the ground rules are with the MSBA, so we don't get in front of them where they say, you guys are already off doing it on your own, you guys are out. That was because the feasibility last time would have been done with them, correct? So I just want to make sure that we're not, that's why I was pushing for the MSBA meeting. I just wanted to know what's okay to do and what's too far.
Yeah, we don't want to get over our skis, Bill. I agree. It's a fair point.
I-
Okay.
Hey, Mike?
Leo, 1 second. Carolyn, go ahead. You're next, Leo.
Another piece, and in my mind, it comes before the feasibility, would be, we didn't get in the program, and we've been talking about applying again, but it seems to me we should also be having a conversation about, what if we didn't use MSBA? Because, we could get a no for many years, so there's a part, I think, about looking at the pros and cons and talking to community and getting a little sense of, would we consider going without it? And so it seems to me that conversation might need to happen before for the feasibility or a new feasibility or parts of it. Because it would be different in my mind, and I may be wrong, but it'd be different if for some reason we decided, to try to do it as a community, to fund it without MSBA.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Carolyn, waiting years is probably not a good option. So, I'm hopeful that a meeting, they're never gonna, my assumption is they're not gonna say, hey, do this, and you're gonna be in, you know what I mean? So I don't think we're gonna have any guarantee, even if we do meet with them. But I appreciate that point, because I think that's probably something that should be discussed. Leo, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to build on that. And, I don't think that, in my past experience, SBA considers plans that are 5 years or older, to be having to be redone. So I would say, building on what Carolyn just said, I think that maybe what we should be talking about is, if we're considering going in it on ourselves, on our own, then we should. I don't think there's any wasted plans, right? If we have a feasibility study that's less than 5 years, they don't have to reimburse it. No, they won't. They won't reimburse it because they already did it once, so they won't do it ever again, whether it's 5 years or not, because we've already burned that bridge. So I think we should take into consideration the idea of, the feasibility study, any studies we do, to be fresh information to inform our decisions moving forward. That's not exactly what I was going to say initially, but building on what you just said, I think that, and I'm going to go kind of back to what I said in the last meeting, and I'm not sure if that requires a vote, but I think we should look at the entire K-5 population as a whole, or maybe even the K-12 population as a whole, around our study, about how we should adjust our buildings based on findings of our studies. And if some of those include MSBA projects that we can go after, then it does. And if it doesn't, then we need to seek other, opportunities. But I think we need a holistic plan for the town, that is not anchored on the Dale Street project. So I think it's just weighing us down and dragging out a solution. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Leo. Just to go back to you, Leo, real quick. The Dale Street School is still the anchor. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like I understand the ask or the general statement in regards to studying K through whatever 5, I guess it is, as a whole.
I understand, Mike. I understand, but the reality is, if we build a 3-grade school or a 2-grade school, it could impact whether or not we need 4 schools or 5 schools based on our projections of our population. So I guess that's why I bring that up. And Wheelock is not getting any younger, right? So are we talking about maybe 2 expansions on Memorial and Wheelock as opposed to building a whole new Dale, right? I'm throwing that out there just because, there's been a lot of question about our projections of our size, and there's a lot of costs to having separate sites. So, what is the, value engineering and we could finish Dale and then be looking to renovate Wheelock right away. So I think I want to take that projection into consideration and show the town that that's what we're doing too, because even if we build a new Dale, I think we should communicate that it's not over even after Dale's done, because we need to do a renovation on Wheelock or an upgrade or whatever needs to be done on Wheelock. I guess that's the concern I have. And I just want to complete, even though our charge currently is Dale Street. I just think I think we're not doing our due diligence if we're not taking the whole picture into consideration.
I think that's a fair statement. Hopefully, the population and enrollment study will help kind of guide us. So I think I mean, personally, I think having 20-year plans is a good idea, but hold on a second. Bill, you're up.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think, Mike, it could be helpful just to have a high level framing of the order of operations of, right, like in my mind, it was talk to the MSBA first, understand what the ground rules are, then immediately parallel path everything that we could do up to their line to start getting some work done. Right. And then, so you call it, late spring at that point, May, June, then you can come back and have a more holistic conversation around, all right, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. The MSBA application's theoretically in. While that's in, we have the conversations with the town at that point around, all right, this is what we learned from the feasibility. Here are the pros, cons. Come back with that discussion. So as you go into the fall, you kind of have a point of view of, do we want to wait for MSBA? Yes, no. Like if MSBA comes back, yes, then we can make that decision then. If they come back, no, we have a head start to then, moving forward. So, and I know that involves some of the school committee too, in terms of the long-term planning, but I think getting alignment on that frame of what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, could be helpful for everybody. Because I think it's all stuff we want to do. It's just a matter of, in my mind, the biggest risk at this point is just getting too far over our skis, and we want to not do something that's going to preclude, massive amounts of state funding that we're going to need at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us can be in agreement with that. Meredith, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, but I'm good.
So look, I'm kind of summarize those Carolyn, Bill, Leo's thoughts. This is a really good start with a third party doing a study for us. It'll give us some real information to come back to us. Then we'll have two sets of information on demographics, on enrollment, and I think we lay it out together. We relay it out to the public, and hopefully in the meantime, on a parallel path, we talk to MSBA. We figure out what our next steps are, but I think we've got a kind of an idea of what they are, whether it be go without, whether it be, do as much as we can up until we find out their next decision process. But I mean, generally, I think that's probably our task at hand. Does that sound fair? Because I want to start taking some bites out of this apple, and I think this RFP is a really good one. If we can do a feasibility study, or at least get into our last feasibility study. And Leo, maybe it's not all, maybe we don't have to do anything, but at least we should. I mean, I'd like, to Jeff's point, I think talking to the public in an open forum, just in regards to those visioning sessions, would be at a minimum our responsibility to do over. But I don't disagree that the information's not that old.
No, I guess, Mike, I'm sorry if I was unclear. No, I think we should continue forward with or without MSBA blessing. I feel like the parts of the study that we do on our own right now is 100% in line and should show that we're serious about what we're doing. The MSBA is, they favor districts that are taking care of their buildings, actually. So we got huge merits in Sharon for the work that we already did on our buildings and maintaining them and making them bringing the longevity forward. So this is, I think my point was, I think I would like us to think holistically as a group about all of our buildings and not just Dale. And I think that's the point I'm bringing up. So, and you know, if I would go get clarification from SBA, but I don't want us to be managed by MSBA. I would like us to own our own destiny and use MSBA if we can, I think is my goal.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else?
Did we talk about what we want to have on our agenda for our next meeting?
No, let's do that next. Teresa, why don't you go ahead. You're muted, sorry.
You're muted.
Sorry, we did have a Q&A from our earlier discussion that we need to recognize. Chris had said, Chris McHugh Potts, will the MSH peer review report be included along with the NESDEC report? A consultant may appreciate knowing some in-depth analysis on the big MSH project has already been done. So I think, you know, when we talked about the adjustment for the RFQ, making sure that that's there as well as all the other housing options that are out there would be included.
Thanks, Teresa. And the question's super valid. But generally, yes, I think that would be part of their due diligence. Whether we make it available or not is immaterial to me. They're gonna get it. So yeah, sure. Although it doesn't, they're gonna want to do their own, I guess is where I'm going, why would be hesitant to give it to them, because that's kind of what their job is. But I'm happy to provide another consultant stuff to them. Since we already voted on it, we may be able to send it out after we get an approval of, like, yes, we will bid on it. You know what I mean? Like supplemental information in an exhibit or something. But the more information the consultants get, the better off our product's going to be, in my opinion. So I think any and all report, building permits, approvals of town, that type of stuff should be pertinent information for them. So Jeff, who sends out the RFP? Just to go back to that real quick, will it be Mike?
Yes, we'll send that out.
And then you're going to add the NESDAQ, obviously the enrollment report from October 1st, 2024.
But, you know, I think it's important to know that even, like, for instance, when Trinity was doing their projections, their demographer came and met with me a couple of times and did several phone calls and got information from us. So they don't do it in a vacuum. They really want to get as much information as possible. So I think that information that was just put in that question, I feel like they're going to ask for it, and we're going to give them all that information. They'll have a whole list of documents that they want from us and information, and we'll give that to them.
Yeah, as long as, like I said, the more information we give them, I think the better our product's going to be, which is really what we need to get at. So I think that should be one piece of it. Anything else? I know we got any other questions? No more questions in the public. I think that was helpful. Jeff, thanks for the quick turnaround on this. Yeah, looking forward to seeing some results, and I guess we're meeting on the 7th, right? My gut tells me that we're not going to be able to vote on the 7th due to the one-day turnaround. We'll have to have questions and things like that, so there may be a meeting like this, I'm thinking kind of mid-February-ish, that we can discuss in the next meeting. That's fine with everybody? Any other agenda items, to Meredith's point, for next time?
Mike, I'm just wondering if the committee wants to discuss the SOI, because I know that the school committee will be discussing that. And I'm sure the select board will be doing that as well, so that might be something for you folks to discuss as well.
Perfect, yes. I think it would be a short discussion, but we can put that to the top of the list of the agenda. My assumption is in the next time we meet, if we do have any bids back, we can at least high level talk about them. So we could put that on there, even though I wouldn't ask for a vote yet. I think we should do that kind of, like I said. Go ahead, Peter.
What's SLI? Sorry, as the newcomer.
A statement of interest to MSBA.
Ah,
It's kind of like the start of the process, Peter, of applying for the grants.
no, absolutely. That sounds important. Okay.
Do we want to move our meeting by a week so we could have a discussion after the RFPs come in and we look at them and instead of meeting twice? I'm just wondering.
I would prefer to do that myself, yes. Any other thoughts?
That will be Valentine's Day. Anyone have a hot date that night?
Too many kids.
The communications subcommittee has a meeting on the 12th. Because we do the Monday after, so I don't know if you. I don't know if
What time is your
everybody-
meeting on the 12th, Carolyn?
We do 7.
Could we just piggyback on that time and maybe do that, like all of us meet then?
That all right with everybody? Just, that's what we just picked a Monday, so, but we meet in the warrant committee room. So if it's not a Zoom, if we're gonna meet in person, I don't do the public safety building rooms. I mean, so you just have to ask Christine or Brittany or somebody if it's open.
If it's not, we can meet at the high school.
Great, Christine, do you have the schedule handy, or is that something you just want to get back to us on? We can meet at the public safety building on the 12th?
I don't have the schedule for the public safety building. We'll have to contact them.
Okay, so let's just assume 112 at 7 PM, or rather 212 at 7 PM. And my preference is something like that. We're gonna have a vote and spend some money. We should meet in person. Everyone good with that? Okay. And I'll shoot Christine a quick note, just to check on, or do you want to just get back to us, Christina, in an email? If not, we'll figure out a spot, please.
We'll get back to you. 212 or 214?
Monday, the 12th,
Okay.
7 PM.
And just some clarity, so Meredith and Mike are gonna look at them first, and then you'd be bringing them to the
I'm gonna
12th?
send, we'll send them out to you. You'll have them before the meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, great.
So that's gonna be, well, it may not be a short agenda. I'm just trying to think if the communication committee wants to meet after that, but that might be kind of late. Or I'm looking at Bob and Teresa and Bill, who I can't see, but do you guys want to meet at 6 before that meeting? Or do you want to just pick a new date? I could do the following Monday or something.
For me, just pick the time and the date and I'll be zooming in from the land in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, Carolyn, maybe we just meet immediately after, because if we're gonna try to get in this like quick response with a quick headline,
Yeah.
maybe we meet just,
We
for-
stay and meet when everyone else is done. So Christine, can you put that agenda up that way that it's the full and then the communications afterwards?
Yeah, we'll just post 2 meetings.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
No problem.
And Mike, we do have another comment from the public on.
Thanks. I'll read it.
Yeah.
Question about meeting protocols. Wouldn't it make sense for the SBC to ask for public comment prior to votes being cast on important items versus waiting until the vote has been taken? My general feeling, Chris, on that is this isn't like a massive, we're not voting on a place or where we're gonna put the school. So I don't think I think it's something that the committee can decide. I mean, we're tasked with doing some studies in our article, so I appreciate the concern. Again, if we get this information out, it'll be in the meeting packet, so you'll be able to read it. But I think that's probably and probably good enough, just in my opinion. If anyone else disagrees, please speak up.
No, I think your point is well taken, that in this particular case, it would be us looking at the proposals and voting. But other things, obviously, yes, the public, we'd want public input before
Yeah.
it depends on the topic.
I mean, huge discussions for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question. All right, so we have a statement of interest, and we'll go to the RFPs on the 12th of February. So that's great. And I don't see anything else from the public, so I'll take want to adjourn the meeting?
A motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Meredith, I'll do it since you're muted. Bob?
Bob Meany, yeah.
Mike Weber, yes. Carolyn?
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Teresa?
Lisa James, yes.
Peter?
Peter Michelson, yes.
Meredith?
Meredith Chamberlain, yes.
Michelle?
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Leo?
Leo Brim, yes.
And Bill.
Bill Werner, yes.
Thanks, everyone.